On October 30th, 2023, a very special birthday party was held in Beijing. It was held in honor of a 103-year-old American called Harry Moyer, a veteran of the legendary Flying Tigers. This is his third visit to China.
I'm so kind of blessed to be here. One of it has been the adventure that I've had with the Chinese people. I've just had a very heartfelt feeling for them. Thank you very much.
Two days earlier, a delegation of the American Flying Tigers, organized by the Sino-American Aviation Heritage Foundation, visited China at the invitation of the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries. There were two especially noteworthy attendees. Veterans Harry Moyer and 98-year-old Mel McMullen, who'd been delighted to receive a message of reply from Chinese President Xi Jinping.
How can one explain a thing like that? It was very heartwarming. The Flying Tigers did a great job for mending that relationship between the Chinese and the American people. Now it's up to the new generations to do so. And President Xi endorsed that.
This transcontinental visit had two purposes: to mark an historical moment that will soon be beyond living memory, and to look to the future. In Dianche Lake, Kunming, Yunnan Province, Yan Jianzheng, former president of the China Exploration Association, and Professor Shen Ying from Harbin Engineering University are using drone-based magnetometry to search for a World War II-era American-made P-40 fighter plane submerged at the bottom. Finding and salvaging this aircraft has been Yan Jianzheng's objective for over 2 decades, an objective he has yet to achieve.
技术难度最大的、时间跨度最长的一个项目，完成这个项目啊，这是我个人的一个夙愿。
Why is there an American fighter plane at the bottom of Dianche Lake? To answer that question, it's necessary to go back over 80 years to dark days of China's war of resistance against Japanese aggression. July 7th, 1937, gunfire at the Marco Polo Bridge marks the start of China's nationwide resistance against Japanese aggression. Despite fierce attacks, the nascent Chinese Air Force bravely fights back. But facing an aggressor with vastly more planes to hurl into battle, the fight quickly takes its toll on China's aircraft and pilots. Air superiority is now in the hands of the Japanese, whose planes are now free to rove at will unmolested, wreaking slaughter and mayhem wherever they go.
炸的那个人啊，尸首啊，到处都是，树上、地上、残肢、头颅，然后一些人在哀嚎啊嘛，因为自己的亲人炸死以后的那种，哭啊，真是动人心肺的这种感觉。
On December 20th, 1941, 10 Japanese bombers took off from Hanoi, Vietnam, heading straight for Kunming. Their pilots and crews were relaxed that day, just another routine bombing mission, and no air force to resist them. But they were in for a shock. Just as the Japanese planes approached, 16 P-40 fighter planes took off from Kunming's Wujiaba airport. Thanks to these fighters with their trademark menacing shark mouth design, the hunters were about to become the hunted.
There they are! That's right! Look at those red balls! Let's get them!
The P-40 fighter planes opened fire, hurling themselves at these 10 Japanese bombers again and again. 3 went down immediately, and 6, having experienced a mauling, tried to limp back to base but crashed on the way. Only 1 ever made it back to the Japanese garrison. After 3 years of uncontested air raids on Kunming, the Japanese were being made to pay 9-0. This precious historical footage captures the moment when Kunming residents celebrated this Japanese setback. But amid the jubilation, they couldn't help but wonder, who was it who had given those arrogant and brutal Japanese pilots such a decisive whipping? Monroe, Louisiana, USA, over 20,000 kilometers from Kunming, but somewhere that has found its place in Chinese hearts. That's because it is the hometown of someone very special, Claire Chennault. Claire Chennault was born in Texas in 1893 and later moved to Monroe, Louisiana. In 1920, he joined the U.S. Army Air Corps, becoming an experienced pilot and flight instructor.
1937年呢，44岁的陈纳德因为桀骜不驯的这个性格，在美国陆军航空队处处碰壁，最终呢以上尉的军衔退役。也就在这个时间呢，接到了这个考察中国空军的这个邀请，处在人生低谷的这个陈纳德就毫不犹豫的就接受了邀请。
Chennault says, from my friends in China came tales of mounting tension and turmoil. China was frantically trying to arm and organize for a showdown. So he gets to China on June of 1937.
The survey was still ongoing, while China's whole nation resistance war against Japanese aggression was in full swing. Eager to aid China, Chennault became an advisor to the Chinese Air Force, assisting in the air war against Japan.
1940年呢，这个陈纳德呢专程呢就返回了美国，他呢游说美国的政界和军界，希望他们加大对中国空军的支持力度。在陈纳德等人不懈的这个努力下呢，1941年的4月，美国的罗斯福总统签署了一项不公开的行政法令，允许美国的陆海军的飞行员退役以后。 以平民的身份到中国来参战。
Chennault, on behalf of the Chinese military, got busy recruiting in the US. Soon, attracted by a mixture of sympathy, a sense of adventure, and the high salaries on offer, 110 pilots, 150 mechanics, and a dedicated support crew were on their way to China. Emma Jane, at 25, was one of 2 women among the recruits. In 1935, while studying at Pennsylvania State University, she became captivated by Chinese culture and studied at Lingnan University in China as an exchange student, where she fell deeply in love with the country. After returning to the US, she longed to go back to China.
I wanted to go back to China to return to them some of the benefits that I had gotten, and I knew the best way to get there was in medicine.
In 1941, Emma Jane's wish came true. She returned to China as a nurse, dedicated to aiding its deeply afflicted people. On her journey, she met 23-year-old pilot Johnny Petash. Thereafter, their lives and fates became bound up with this ancient Asian country. On August 1st, 1941, the American Volunteer Group, or AVG, of the Chinese Air Force was officially established with Chennault, now a newly minted colonel, as its commanding officer. In December the same year, the forces made its combat debut. the 9-0 spectacular victory against Japan in the skies above Kunming.
那么昆明人去庆功的时候，看见这个鲨鱼血红的牙齿，有些人就说是哎呀，昆明人有没有见过这个鲨鱼？就说这个是老虎啊，老虎飞起来会咬人，很厉害。
As Flying Tigers was translated into English, it was greatly favored by Chennault and the volunteer aviators. The following year, Walt Disney personally designed an emblem featuring a winged tiger charging from the letter V for victory. From then on, Chennault and his pilots became globally known as the Flying Tigers.
After the first raid, the whole atmosphere changed. And the Chinese, they were very grateful. I mean, they would, of course, they were glad to see them there anyway, but to have not to be bothered with the bombs again.
As fate would have it, Emma Jane and Johnny Petash found love and joy in China, marrying in Kunming in February 1942, where they were often seen cycling around the city together. Despite participating in major military actions like the air battle in Kunming and the defense by Nujiang River, John rarely spoke about his military activities so as to avoid worrying Emma.
When the fellows were stationed in Kunming and they were sent out on patrols, you'd count the planes as they went out, you'd count them when you came back, and if one was missing, your heart just churned. You just didn't know. And there happened to be 4 Petes in the outfit. So every time there was a Pete, and there were a couple of them shot down, it was just difficult.
Emma Jane's concerns were well-founded. All Flying Tigers were all too aware that each takeoff could be their last. On April 28, 1942, Texas pilot John Blackburn flew a P-40 to Dianchi Lake in Kunming for a dive bombing training exercise. While other pilots completed their dives and pulled up, Blackburn's P-40 suddenly lost control and crashed into the lake at high speed. Another Flying Tiger quickly turned his plane to circle over the lake, hoping to spot John Blackburn escaping from the wreckage. However, as the water settled, there was no sign of him. A few days later, the body of John Blackburn, an American pilot who had successfully shot down 2 Japanese aircraft, was recovered. Tragically, he passed away at the age of under 24. John Blackburn's fighter plane still rests at the bottom of Dianchi Lake, testifying to the joint efforts of the Chinese and American peoples. For many, the detection and salvage of this P-40 fighter plane remains an aspiration and ambition.
西南西方向，这2道山极线的交汇点，对吧？只有在一个特定角度上，你看过去，它才能在这个位置上交汇。就在那个位置，对吧？
那个位置啊，沟口，大青山。
对。
Since 1998, Yan Jiangzheng led a team to uncover the P-40 fighter plane in Dianchi Lake, hoping to bring it back to the light of day. The operation lasted 5 years, but for various reasons failed to be crowned with success. Despite repeated setbacks, Yan Jiangzheng didn't give up. In November 2023, with the assistance of Professor Shen Ying's team from the Harbin Engineering University, they resumed the search for this aircraft.
So we thought, gee, can we get that airplane? Maybe it should be recovered. And we said we'll start sometime in the future when the equipment is available to do it properly.
Flying Tigers, the famous American volunteer group, wing their way across China for the last time as volunteers.